it's probably great if we actually get started, which is great. There may be some other people that join us shortly, but first of all, I'd like to welcome you all to the Miindset webinar. This is Humankind, AI in Service of Mental Health, and being co-hosted today with Dr. Eva Commons. And I'd just like to welcome you all here. Thank you for joining. So for those of you, just share with you a little bit of a background about us and what we have. So for example, these are seminars that we're going to be running over the next couple of months with thought leaders in the mental health sector, really looking at some of the issues that are facing us today. Typically about 40 minutes long, 20 minutes of insights from myself and Aoife, and then we'll allow for 20 minutes of questions. So we ask that if you can stay and keep yourself in, that would be great. And we can keep all the questions and take those questions at the end. And the agenda that we've set out is really looking at the challenge that we have with mental health in the workplace at this point, and some of the hidden costs and the stigma that's attached to that, as well as the power that AI is actually providing in helping organizations, not just now in these corona times, but also in the future. So what we'll do is obviously introduce myself initially. My name is Marina Nicholas, and in the last decade, I've enjoyed a career in the technology sector, working with companies that are passionate about doing business for good. And with a personal experience in mental health in the family, I'm passionate about helping companies and corporates look at mental health differently and break down the associated stigma, tapping in and harnessing the power of technology. So that's what I'm particularly passionate about. Now I'd like you to meet Dr. Aoife Commons.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. I'm Aoife, consultant clinical psychologist. I've spent over 20 years working in mental health. In the NHS, I specialise in adult mental health and in early onset psychosis. Working exclusively in private practice now, I'm the director of Happiness in Mind, which offers clinical psychology services and resilience and performance coaching. I'm passionate about helping people to optimise their mental health and resilience. And it's a pleasure to be here today with Marina and the rest of Miindset to raise mental health awareness and improve psychological well-being in the workplace.
Thanks, Aoife. So what we'd like to first introduce you to is the mental health challenge that is being faced, not just in the UK, but globally in many countries. And the employer's challenge is that currently they have about 1 in 4 people experience mental health each year. And this is coming at a cost of about 105 billion per year, just in the UK. And we know in the UK that there's only 25% of companies that actually have a mental wellness program in place, compared to 42% in the rest of the world. And throughout this presentation, what we'll share with you is some of the good stories that are coming out from other countries as well. So it's very much a global presentation. Each country has their own legislation. So for today's purposes, I'm going to take you through the UK legislation that we have in place, because as I said, different countries treat it differently. But in the UK alone, the duty of care section, I mean, the Mental Health Act has been around for 40 years. And Section 2 specifically talks about the duty of care that employers have to take care of their employees' health and well-being. And it's only recently that we've started to see that actually the mental health side of that has been something that's not been on the sort of priority list for them. So the challenge that's actually faced by the employee in reality is that they actually take about 1 in 5 days off because that's due to stress. And because of the stigma that's actually attached to that, 90% of those people actually cite a different reason because they didn't want their employer to realize it. Now, if we actually look at these charts, the working days lost by type of ill health, according to the HSC report in 2018, is 57% is due to stress, depression, and anxiety. And like we said, it goes unspoken about, and that's the reality for the employee. Just bear with me while I just move that slide on. So the mental health challenges facing managers and leaders, like we said, this is actually, the landscape's actually now changed overnight. We've had these issues in the workplace for decades, but now the landscape's changed. And with people working from home, it's been exaggerated. So the Mental Health Act, like we said, has been around. But what I'd like to do is get insights from Aoife on what she forecasts that the challenges will be facing managers and leaders going forward.
Okay, yeah. Well, if we look at the state of play pre-COVID-19, as Marina said, figures show that work-related stress, depression and anxiety account for a significant amount of all work-related ill health. Research shows that stress and mental health problems negatively affect our performance and productivity. When we're stressed, we lose our ability to think clearly, we don't make good decisions, we find it hard to focus, we lose creativity and motivation. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we're all dealing with uncertainty and change due to health threats, social distancing and work changes. On a global level, lives have been altered, placing huge mental strain on people, and this may result in psychological difficulties. People with pre-existing mental health problems may find their conditions have been exacerbated. Other challenges may include recovery from ill health and the psychological effects, caring for ill or vulnerable others, mourning the devastating loss of loved ones. Work organisations have had to adapt. The move to digital online means staff being furloughed, potential job losses, loss of work, financial stress. With the closure of schools, working parents may be struggling to balance the demands of work and childcare duties. Remote working may mean longer working hours and blurring the boundaries between personal and professional lives. Employees may feel less supported in the virtual world than in face-to-face conditions. Exhaustion from the intensity of work, and I bring to mind frontline workers. As human beings, our brains are hardwired to seek out connection, so loneliness and social isolation may be a challenge. Some people may be looking forward to getting back to work and having more physically distanced contact with others. Although I guess, there may be some feeling reluctant to go back to former ways of working and being after enjoying the benefits of being at home more.
Mm-hmm. So what we can now look at is the hidden cost of this. So that's obviously the emotional side of things. If we now look at the financial cost to an actual employer, and here we can see this is based on a report by the Vitality and the Financial Times in 2019, when they actually had employers taking part in the survey. And we're looking at two different things here. Presenteeism is where actually people attend work, but they're actually not present at their job because they have other things in their mind. And absenteeism clearly is when people have actually not turned up for work. So what we do is we've looked at this and to see the impact that this actually has. And here you can see that if you have a company of let's say 450 employees, the number of days of productivity lost is 2,350 and about $2 million per year. If we scale that up, just using the same metrics to a company with 10,000 employees, you can see that it's 30,000 days lost, and that's about $44 million. So it's quite a significant hidden cost that companies are actually facing. So moving now on to looking at the companies that have actually done the right thing. There are many companies at the moment who have got programs in place. Like we said, in the UK, it's 25%, and I'm sure that varies by country to country. But recently, as a result of the COVID times that we're living in, we're seeing a lot more of the companies actually taking charge of this. And Aldi has recently partnered last month with the Mental Health UK to support employee mental health. So some of these are really good stories and examples of employers doing the right thing. And we also have examples where there's been neglected responsibility. So you may have seen in the news, but in December last year, the CEO and two other senior executives at France Telecom, now owned by Orange, are actually now in jail for 4 months as a result of neglecting their employees' mental health. There was 39 cases of mental health issues, and out of those, we ended up having 19 who actually took their own lives, and there were 12 who attempted to. Plus, there was a whole group of other people who have got long-term effects as a result of their neglected responsibility. So every country has a different legislation in place, and so France really has shown us that we need to kind of put something in place to help our employees going forward. Otherwise, it has significant consequences.
Okay, now in dealing with the pandemic challenges, stress, anxiety, low mood, anger, frustration, boredom, sleep difficulties, loneliness are all very normal reactions. We are all in the same boat, and we're all in this stress, adjustment, coping process that's ongoing. In terms of data, we don't actually know what the psychological impact is going to be. The World Health Organization have reported elevated rates of stress and anxiety. However, given quarantine and its effects on many people's usual routines or livelihoods, levels of loneliness, depression, alcohol and drug use, and self-harm, suicidal behaviour are expected to rise. There's been an increase in domestic violence. We might also see an increase in post-traumatic disorder symptoms, health anxieties, people fear getting ill, and OCD conditions given increased hand washing and sanitising recommendations. I also wonder about the psychological impact on other vulnerable groups like children, the homeless, people with existing mental health problems. Focusing on the psychological needs of people recovering from COVID-19 illness, well, the World Health Organization report that 80% of people only have mild illness, 14% require hospital admission and oxygen support, and 5% require intensive care. Now we know that in the critical care population, a third suffer anxiety and low mood. There's increased risk of post-traumatic stress disorder related to flashbacks, nightmares and delirium experienced whilst in intensive care. Sleep problems are common, and a third also experience cognitive problems. So in terms of recovery, we don't know much research-wise, although we can look at data on the long-term effects of related coronavirus diseases. So for example, the SARS 2003 outbreak and its quarantine, its effects were studied in Canada, and 4 years later, the results showed that 42% of people affected met criteria for at least one mental health diagnosis. 27% met criteria for chronic fatigue syndrome. Other studies show a rise in post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. So these studies do highlight significant long-term effects on mental health. And I think it's important to point out that the SARS and the period of quarantine was more short-lived compared to COVID-19 as well. So if you look at recent news headlines, they highlight coronavirus suicide concerns as well. The results of an online survey done by mental health charity Mind found that almost a quarter of people who tried to access mental health support in the past fortnight had been unable to get help. And evidence shows that when people do not get mental health support early enough, they are more likely to reach crisis point and need emergency help.
So we very much believe that, that it's a very complex issue, and as a result of that, the solutions are very varied about the programs that are available to an employer. And we very much believe that complex situations require simple solutions. And we believe that artificial intelligence has a way at supporting humanity. So just to share with you some examples about how AI is currently aiding in the battle against coronavirus alone. Because AI uses machine learning in order to generate automated analytical models from data. And via the use of the algorithms, the AI can pass massive amounts of data and learn from it and identify patterns and generate determinations and predictions. So we've seen even in the last couple of months, AI, database company Blue Dot, has sent out a warning to its clients. It sent it out to the WHO, the World Health Organization, to avoid Wuhan, China. And it actually took another 9 days before the WHO identified that the data was correct. And it also was able to predict that there were going to be other hotspots emerging as a result of the movement of people around the places. We also have seen examples of a San Francisco-based company who's accurately predicted that countries most likely to report new cases will be China, Italy, Iran, and the US, based on using the data that it had aggregated. Also, there's another example of how AI has been very good, and we very much believe that technology is going to have a really strong role in helping these situations. The AI system of in silico medicine managed to identify thousands of molecules of potential coronavirus medication in only 4 days. The Chinese scientists were able to recreate the genome sequence in just 1 month with the help of AI. Now, previously in the SARS example in 2003, because scientists used traditional methods, it actually took 3 months. So we can see that the power of technology and the role of tech companies is actually going to grow even more. So that's the kind of looking at the bigger picture of how AI is helping humanity in the healthcare sector. But let's now look specifically at the mental health and how we can actually help AI and tap into its power for this scenario. So at Miindset, what we're actually doing is we are using AI to help the employee and the employer. So an employee will actually fill out a wellness checker, a questionnaire every day, and that will actually start to learn more about that individual and provide a tailored solution. But as a result of filling out the wellness checker, afterwards they'll actually receive videos, podcasts, and articles from over 15 different channels of content. So if they specifically have something like finances on their mind that they're concerned about, it will deliver back to them the information tailored to their requirements. It's very much like the safe Google for mental health. And we're also seeing from an employer's perspective that they have had the challenge previously of not understanding what actually works for their company or how they can actually measure the mood. So with this, the AI, we're able to give a real-time read and actually look at things in an instant and measure the mood of the company at that moment in time. The data that gets served back to them is anonymized, but it enables somebody to actually see here the content breakdown of what people are actually looking at so that they can actually start to deliver some content that's tailored to their employees. As well as monitoring and seeing trends. As we said, the power of the machine learning is it starts to identify trends in stress, anxiety, and depression over time. So this is one of the ways that we at Miindset are actually using AI to help employers and employees. And just to kind of summarize, really, Miindset is the first mental health wellness platform to use it and tailor it to an individual and actually help improve their mood in an instant. And what we are passionate about is changing the stigma that's associated with it as well. The last thing you want to do is become like an example like France Telecom, where you didn't have anything in place and it resulted in some devastating consequences. So that's kind of a brief overview of what we're actually doing and how we believe that the power of AI can actually help humanity. So I can now hand over to everybody for some questions. And if you feel free to unmute yourself if you want to ask any questions.
Hi Marina, it's Margaret here. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hi Margaret.
Hi, that was really interesting. Thanks to you both. It was a really helpful overview. Um, I suppose my question, looking at it from the corporate side and the sort of what's in it for me type of mentality that you will, inevitably come across, what will be the tangible measures that as an FD I would be able to use to justify the investment in this?
Thank you. That's a good question. So when you actually look at the slider, because those are, it tracks back to obviously the average person income as well as the days of productivity based on research. So as an FD, you'll be able to see actually over time using the manager's dashboard, the trends subsiding, and we can actually link that into your absenteeism. So if a company has an absenteeism record, we can actually link to that through an API. And that gives you the actual amount of days that you've now saved and your cost savings, so you can play that back into senior management.
Great. So if I'm speaking to the FD of Connells, for example, it would be quite easy to demonstrate the payback for this investment over time.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I would like to then ask a question to the founder and the CTO of Miindset, Mike. Are you able to take a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. It would be really great to understand that obviously I know this has been something that's been in development and built for several years. It'd be really interesting to hear from you some of the focus groups and case studies that actually have had success.
Yeah, sure. So yes, as Marina said, I'm the founder and CTO of Miindset, and it's been in development over the last 4 years. During that time, we've been out to a lot of focus groups and had a lot of people on giving input into the system, and that's ranged from HR, finance, CEO, all the way through to people who've actually experienced mental ill health in themselves and were either going through it at the time or had come out the other end and were coping much better with it. So a lot of the platform is actually built to be very sensitive to those kinds of people, and to also then, as well as being sensitive to the employee and give the benefits to them in improving their mental well-being, also delivering value again, because it's a commercial opportunity to the organisation itself. So that's happened over, like I say, over the last 4 years, and we've constantly then been building on the AI during that time to also improve what we're delivering to the end users, with the goal, obviously, of helping everyone and helping people through those difficult times.
Thank you, Mike. Excellent. Was there any other questions? But I'd just like to ask a question then to Aoife, obviously, because you're working in this on a daily basis. But if you could kind of recommend the top 3 challenges that you see that actually an employer is going to be challenged with in the next 18 months. I know we can't predict that, but if just to give us a kind of an idea of, because we are at the tip of the iceberg.
It is hard to kind of predict, but you know, elevated rates of kind of anxiety and depression. If you know, looking at people recovering from the COVID-19 illness, you know, there's all sorts of kind of complications in terms of mental health that can kind of come with that in terms of the psychological effects. So I think, you know, it does require from employees to be sensitive, and I think, you know, in terms of Mental Health Awareness Week, more kindness and kind of compassion is required in kind of work organisations at these kind of crisis times, in order to kind of support everybody to kind of get through this, and you know, creating a kind of a culture, really. I think the culture of an organisation and the communication style play a pivotal role in the stress and well-being of the workplace, and you know, creating a culture that affords a healthy, productive, sustainable way of working you know, encouraging employees to kind of look after themselves as well as their work, in order to create a happier, healthier, more engaged, productive kind of workforce. I think it's important for leaders within organisations to openly show how you care for your mental health and well-being, and to be role models. And I think that can be a huge catalyst for raising mental health awareness and the importance of it.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, in your day-to-day practice that you do, and there's a wide range. We have people who are working at home for the first time and having to manage childcare. Some people want to go back to work, like you said, and some people prefer to kind of stay at home because they're enjoying a better work-life balance. How do you see employers navigating that going forward? With like,
yeah, I think it's helpful for employers to listen to their employees in terms of what's going on for them, and I am hearing, you know, from my clients that majority of employers are being sensitive and listening to people's needs to be flexible around kind of working hours to accommodate, you know, childcare and at these kind of difficult times.
yeah,
So
excellent. Was there any other questions?
Marina, if I could ask a question, in terms of as an employer, if I'm going to measure what matters in my business, and I believe well-being matters, would you say that the Miindset app is a tool which lets you say, yes, I am measuring well-being in the business? And are there any other tools that would work in harness with it?
Yes, so thank you, that's a good question. So yes, it does. It's one of the things that we've done from all our research, and when it's being built, was actually mapping to what an employer's challenges are. And one of the key challenges are tracking. I know that we're trying to track coronavirus at the moment, but also tracking for an employer so that they can justify the spend. So that is why the manager's dashboard, and through all the work that's been done, has had that input from the people that matter and read those statistics, like the HR directors and professionals. And it links back, like we said, you can actually then directly link to the financial and the absenteeism of a company to validate that. And with regards to, we have many companions and partners within Miindset. We are very much like a destination hub, where we have partnerships in place at the moment with wearable devices to track people's mood, do surveys, and really anyone that is passionate about actually empowering employers with a toolkit are partnering on the Miindset platform. But what that means is the employer just knows that they don't have to go to multiple solutions, because it's all within the one very safe platform. Is there any other questions at all?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. This is Scott McMillan speaking. I'm hoping that Mike can provide a little bit more color with regards to the artificial intelligence piece and how that improves, you know, the Miindset offering over what's already available, you know, in the marketplace today.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll take that one. So as we say, we use AI modeling to actually go and curate the content based on how an individual is actually feeling in the moment. So as Marina said, this is very unique in the marketplace, where we can actually respond very, very quickly to the instant that somebody records how they're feeling. We can start offering them content that's going to improve the mood. How we actually do that is through a reasonably complex AI bag of words modeling system that we use, and natural language processing, as well as sentiment analysis. So we kind of bunch all this technology together to go from the clinical side of the questions, and then the answers to the questions, and then we go and source the content globally for helping improve people's moods. So that goes into real text analysis and image and video analysis. and then looking to score that based on the benefits that content will bring to those individuals. And we do that all day, every day in real time. So the beauty of that is we don't have to scale a workforce in order to create content or go and manually curate the content. And it also means we can scale globally and also respond to things like COVID as and when it happens. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, cheers, Mike.
Marina, it's Margaret. Mike, that's really interesting, that answer, and relates to, I've been working with a group of consultants looking at the perception of employees in the property industry. So that could be, for example, a negotiator or a manager. And out of our research, it appears that 66% of people working in that industry, not the owners necessarily, but the people working in that industry, are either looking to leave or are extremely concerned about managing the changes that might be on the horizon. So just thinking aloud about Miindset being able to be proactive and working with that industry to actually help those people manage change and manage what might be ahead for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point, Margaret. So yeah, through Miindset, we would be able to curate the sort of content that might help people who, like you say, are worried and thinking about the change and also thinking about leaving. It might just help them manage that process and help them stay in that industry, because the content that we curate is so specific to the worries that are on their mind. So yeah, it's absolutely a very good test case.
And also, I'm just thinking aloud, Mike, that the sell to the employer, the business owner, is, well, actually, guys, you need to be engaging with this, because you do not want 2/3 of your workforce walking out in 4 weeks' time.
Exactly. So it would give them the opportunity to get ahead of it.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. So if there's no more questions, then we'll actually bring it to a close. If you've actually enjoyed this webinar, then please feel free to visit our LinkedIn page, our Miindset page, and like it. That would be great. But we will be running these. We have 2 per month planned, where we're inviting thought leaders and experts from the mental health sector to co-host and share their insights. So whether they're from the legal profession or from the technology sector or from the psychological sector, we'll be featuring them throughout our webinar series. So we'll keep you posted on those. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And if you have any questions or you want to contact us afterwards, or you would like to have a demo, then please get in touch with myself or Mike at miindset.com. That sounds great.
Thank you, Marina.
And everyone healthy and happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.